What's going on, Falcons fans? Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. We got a lot to get to on today's show, from the Dion Jones trade to everything stemming from the Falcons' loss against the Bucs, where they got robbed by the refs. But first, make sure to hit that big red button and subscribe, because here's my pitch. If we can get to 8,000 subscribers on today's show, which means 165 new people have to subscribe, we're going to bring on our Saints Today host, Trace Gerard, and we're going to punch him in the face with a boxing glove. So if that's something you want to see, subscribe to Falcons Today. All right, let's jump into the biggest news story coming out of Atlanta right now, and that is Dion Jones has been traded to the Cleveland Browns. We knew a trade was in the works all offseason long. It was just all about trying to find a trade partner, and ultimately it is the Cleveland Browns. A late pick swap. The Falcons pick up a future 6th-rounder, and the Browns get a future 7th-rounder. Ultimately, Atlanta knew they were going to move on from Dion Jones, especially drafting Troy Anderson. They wanted to see what they had in their new linebacker room. And ultimately, this was a trade I don't think anyone is overly shocked about. It was just a matter of when, not really if. Now, some details to get to here from Tom Pelissero late last night. The Falcons will carry a $12.14 million dead cap hit in 2023 from Dion Jones, who has no guarantees remaining on his contract beyond 2022. The Browns owe Jones about $1.39 million in salary for the rest of the season. Remember, Dion Jones restructured his contract earlier this year? Well, that was to make a trade more feasible, lowering that base salary. That way, whatever team he gets traded to, just divide by 17 for that base salary, and however many games are left, that's how much his new team, in this case, the Browns owe him, which is $31,250 in addition from his roster bonus. So let's talk more about Dion Jones, though, right? A guy who was drafted in the 2nd round back in 2016. He got off to such a great start with the Falcons as a coverage linebacker, had that huge pick on Drew Brees back in 2017, and he thrived under Dan Quinn. Pro Football Focus gave him an 85 overall grade from 2016 to 2020. I mean, he really did a lot of great things in Dan Quinn's defense, but after he got the bag, all of a sudden he starts to deteriorate a little bit. Last season was not a good season for Dion Jones. Pro Football Focus graded him out at 34.6. Guys, that's like really, really bad right there. That is not a good number you want to see. Ultimately, he gets surgery this offseason. He goes on the PUP list. He plays a little bit in the preseason. Falcons put him on IR to start the season. That was basically, we don't want you to get hurt, so we can't trade you. Just sit, rest, give it a couple of weeks, and we will find a trade partner for you, which is where we go now to the Cleveland Browns. So one more time, looking at the trade here, Falcons get a 6th-rounder. I know that's not a big, sexy return, and you would like to get more for someone who's done a lot of great things for the Falcons. He's had some down times at stretches, but all in all, I think Dion Jones is going to go down as a really good Falcons defender for a good stretch of time. So grade the trade, A, B, C, D, or F. Sure, you don't get what you maybe would have hoped for, but at the end of the day, when everyone knows a trade is happening and it's for a linebacker in a day and age where football is not really running through linebackers like it once was, and he's got a big cap hit, which the Falcons are taking on, you're not going to get much in return. So here's what the Falcons linebacker room now looks like officially. It's looked like this all season, but now Dion Jones really done in Atlanta. Mykal Walker, and we'll talk more about him in the injury update on just a second, but Rashaan Evans, they came over from Tennessee in free agency, and Troy Anderson, the rookie from Montana, who has been awesome so far this season and really making some good strides, in my opinion. Just as a rookie, you love to see things out of him and the growth he has had so far this season. But let's get to Mykal Walker. Against the Bucs, he had 11 tackles. He has really emerged as this team's green dot linebacker who's going to command the middle of this defense. Now, he did leave the Bucs game with a groin injury. He says he should be ready to go come week 6, so not much of a concern on my end from that department. And then Troy Anderson. It's not like any of these players have had their snaps reduced because of Dion Jones, because he hasn't played all season. Now, really, it's just that is done. That page is turned, and we can move on from the Dion Jones era and really go full send with rookies and younger players like Troy Anderson and Arnold Ebiketie coming off the edge. He's been a good rookie pass rusher this season. 1 sack early in the year, week 1 against the Saints. Hope to see more out of him as this linebacker room just as a whole goes a new direction without Dion Jones there. So with that being said, let's switch gears on today's show, and let's talk about Week 5 and the loss against the Bucs and some takeaways I've got here, because that's a bummer. Atlanta was robbed. There's no other way to put it. The refs screwed the Falcons over. In my opinion, this is referees overcorrecting from the Tua hit, where now they don't want to be the referee that lets a QB like Tom Brady get hurt, and they're just going to throw roughing the passer, so no defensive end or edge rusher, or in this case, defensive tackle, even gets the slightest idea of, God forbid, doing their job. That's my TED Talk. No pressure on Tom Brady, though. Tom Brady was pretty flawless in this game, 67.3 completion percentage, 351 yards, 1 touchdown. The Bucs got off to a good start using Leonard Fournette early in this game, and then the Falcons responded well in the second half and posed some problems for the Bucs. But Tom Brady, the GOAT, he gets bailed out once again, time and time again, from the Tuck rule to the Grady Jarrett BS call. Brady always seems to be on the receiving end of a pretty good call going his way. It's pretty frustrating to see because this Falcons team was stringing some wins together. I can't guarantee that Marcus Mariota would have driven down the field and scored a game-winning touchdown for Atlanta, but you would at least like to have seen him have the chance to do so, because under the rules of football, that was a sack. There is no devil's advocate of, well, maybe it shouldn't have been a sack. I've rewatched that Grady Jarrett sack 1,000 times now. It's BS. That's really what it comes down to. The referee afterwards said they didn't like the pressure being placed and the throwing motion of Brady. Oh, grow up. This is the NFL. Come on. All right, we're going to get to more takeaways in just a second, but it's starting to get a little chilly, right? We're in spooky October right now, so if you want to stay warm while watching the Falcons play, make sure you've got this awesome hoodie, thanks to Fanatics, that is on sale. Now, I can't guarantee this sale is going to last for long, so take advantage of it by going to chatsports.com/ATL hoodie, and you're going to get this sweet Falcons hoodie on sale today. That link is in the comments and the description of today's show. All right, my next takeaway from Sunday's loss, the Falcons need the running game to really get into a rhythm on offense. And with no Cordero Patterson, it's going to fall on these two guys who I think have done a very good job filling in for 84. Tyler Algier, the rookie out of BYU, he is someone that I'm starting to get a bigger crush on as the weeks pass. And Caleb Huntley, he had an awesome performance against the Browns, against the Bucs, a much tougher run defense, 8 carries, 34 yards. But ultimately, Marcus Mariota is not going to throw for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns in order to lead this Falcons team to a victory. They're going to have to rely on the ground game. And with no Patterson, it's going to have to be a combination of Algier and Huntley and even Mariota a little bit, who led this team in rushing against Tampa Bay for 61 yards. All right, so we're going to get to some more stuff right now, but first I want you all to weigh in here. What's your biggest takeaway from Week 5? I'm going to give you a positive one. This team's got some fight, though, right? They've got some dog in their lungs. They've got some grit. They were down double digits against Tom Brady and the Bucs on the road. And how do they respond? By putting themselves in a position to take the lead at the end of the game if it wasn't for a BS flag. So I think this team, they've got some grit, they've got some dog. They are not going to be an easy out. And Arthur Smith has this crew playing hard for so far 5 weeks at this point. All right, another takeaway I want to get to right now is the defense with just too much zone defense. So it's always a tough combination whenever you want to go up and play Tom Brady, because he's good against any defense, right? That's what makes him Tom Brady. Zone, man, it doesn't really matter. But Leonard Fournette dominated, and he picked apart this team on the ground and in the air. 14 carries, 56 yards, 1 touchdown. 14 was his longest rush altogether. But through the air, that's where Lenny did a lot of damage. 10 grabs, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. When you play a zone defense, you're going to have a lot of your linebackers sit back in coverage, right? Keep the ball in front of them. The issue is that's going to open up opportunities for Fournette in the flat and across the middle of the field, and the Falcons defense just did not have a response for that. Instead of sticking a man on Fournette and running hip for hip, no, they've sat back in that zone, and that allowed Fournette to go over 100 yards from the line of scrimmage here. I want to show this quote really quickly from Russell Gage right now, leading into Week 5. Russell Gage, of course, a familiar face, saying, honestly, the defense looks pretty similar. I know Coach Dean Pease, he mixes a lot of coverage up. He plays a lot of different coverages. He'll run a linebacker out there at corner and still play cover 2. So Russell Gage knows a thing or two about going up against the Falcons, this time playing for the enemy in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Too much zone defense in this one ultimately led to the Buccaneers getting into a rhythm on offense. All right, final takeaway I've got for the Dirty Birds is the O-line just could not protect Marcus Mariota enough. I think this O-line has improved from last season. It's still not where it needs to be. It's getting better, but they gave up 5 sacks against the Bucs, so the offensive line did not finish with a single pass blocking grade above 74. The way you can look at this from two lenses, kind of half glass full, half glass empty. Again, you played a really fierce and ferocious Buccaneers pass rush that's going to get after the quarterback, so that's not good. But ultimately, Mariota giving up 5 sacks against the Bucs, that's not going to cut it either, especially for an offense that is missing Kyle Pitts, it's missing Cordero Patterson. They have got to find a way to do everything else right if they're already going to be shorthanded going into a matchup where they're 10-point dogs. That's going to do it for us on today's show. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in, making us a part of your day. Like I said at the top of the show, if we get to 8,000 subs on today's show, we're going to bring our Saints host on here, get the boxing glove on, punch him across the face, maybe go full Rocky mode here. So if you are already subscribed, send this link, send this video to another Falcons fan, have them subscribe so we can get Trace on here and the Falcons can punch the Saints in the mouth.